Welcome to New Game Plus, a retro gaming podcast where three guys spend 7 days playing one old game and then we talk about it. My name's Dustin.
My name's Kenny.
Nolan.
And this is episode 281. And fellas,
Yes.
do you know what kind of episode it is?
No. Oh,
281.
yeah, Patreon pool.
It's a Patreon pool. And Resident Evil Village has been released and has already shipped over 3 million units worldwide. Sale numbers aren't in yet, but it seems to be selling and reviewing extremely well. None of us have played it. We don't play new games, only old games. That's what's up. But have you watched any of the gameplay? Have you heard about it at all? What are your thoughts?
Yes, and I have trusted sources that say that game sucks. And
Have you got a little insider info that you've been holding out on us with?
Yeah, but y'all don't care about Resident Evil.
I watched you play through the first 17 games.
17?
Yeah,
There
but
are
like
17.
insider trading or something. I'll use your information somehow.
Okay, no,
I mean-
look. It's
Who? Someone from our community?
No, it's a streamer.
You can't
I've-
tell. It's top secret.
It's a streamer and he's not a YouTuber, he's a streamer, but he's on YouTube and he I've been watching him for like 4 years. And he's my favorite streamer. And he is into Resident Evil, like been into it. And so I think maybe his like love for the early games makes him not care for the newer ones. But he liked 7 and 8 follows the same character from 7. So I haven't played 7 either. I want to, and I will one day, but I'm going to go through all of them. I'm on 3. I'm on Remake 3. So I'm going to do that. And I think the reason it's selling well is because there are no PlayStation 5 games. And so now there's one people can play. And so like, yeah, give it to me. I bought a PlayStation.
That's exactly why.
That's one of the reasons, but then two, have you watched any of the gameplay? It looks amazing.
I've watched the whole game. I watched him play the whole game.
And
Like spoilers
I
and
just don't
everything.
care about Resident Evil.
Well, because you're a scaredy boy. You're
Yeah,
scared.
that genre. That
anytime-
genre is not my speed.
Anytime someone shoots a bullet at you, you scare yourself
scared.
into hiccups.
Once it happened once.
That's one too many times.
I'm not huge into Resident Evil. I have played some Resident Evil games. I've actually probably read more Resident Evil novels than games.
Probably.
That's not.
I've
okay.
never touched one.
When I was in middle school and high school, I read some of them. They're terrifying. I mean,
I bet.
yeah, they're really good though.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know. Okay, so you got insider information that it's
Yes.
bad. I've heard and seen good stuff. And
Sure.
yeah, I guess sell numbers are inflated due to the PS5. It is the best selling on PS5 right
'Cause
now.
there are no games. Returnal is the other
not-
one, and it's kind of indie, so it's like
Maternal?
Returnal. It's another new game that came out for PlayStation, and it's like really cool. It's like a roguelike.
I thought you said maternal, which
No.
would have just been a video game about being a mom.
Pregnancy sim.
Yeah.
Oh my
Well,
gosh.
do you know, if you're a Resident Evil fanboy, Nolan, do you know about the upcoming Netflix series or movie?
No.
They're doing both of those.
Oh, Netflix is doing the movie too.
No.
Oh.
I don't think so. No.
That's cool. There is a Resident Evil movie from the 90s, right? Or early
Yeah.
2000s, I mean. And I never
There
saw
is,
it.
and I have.
Is it good? There's no way.
No.
No, that's not.
It's exactly what you would expect it to be. It's not as bad as it could be,
Yeah.
but yeah, you get what you're expecting.
I watch a Netflix series though. They tend to do
Yeah.
stuff like Witcher. I was loving Witcher, and so they could pull that off, I think.
I know very little about both of these. I actually looked up for the movie to see if it was live action or animated. Could not find any information on it, and it's coming out this year apparently. I think it's live action, but I think the Netflix series might be animated. But again, I have no information
Animated
on either
could
of these
work
things.
very well.
Yeah. But with all of this new Resident Evil content, it seems like this series is Capcom's new flagship franchise that is just completely taking over. It truly is a powerhouse of the cell.
Yeah. Science class.
Like in our retro game of the week, Parasite Eve.
Overview.
Parasite Eve is an RPG developed by Square. Came out in 1998. And it was Square's first M-rated game. Were you guys
not ours?
No, but were y'all allowed to play these games? Could you have played this growing up?
Fun thing is, I don't think my parents knew about the ratings of video games. Yeah, and
Mine
so
totally did.
So I could, for the most part, I could rent. They just saw video games as a different like media, and it is, than movies or television shows. They were much more guarded on some of those things than they were on video games. Though, when I was playing stuff like Final Fantasy VII that is full of swear words and a lot of asterisks, I would have to like go through them quickly whenever they were in the room.
And Kenny, you were 30, so you're good.
I've always just done whatever I want.
Okay, I believe that,
nice.
Actually. And now that I think about it, I could too. My parents only paid attention to like the cover art, and this one's not racy.
This one's pretty provocative, isn't it? Oh no,
not really.
I guess if you look at Eve, but she's down there.
But like Conker's looks friendly, but it ain't.
Right. There are some other M-rated titles that we have played, but yes, this is the first one from Square. And you said 1998. This is right in my video game era, my prime gaming era. Final Fantasy and Alundra had come out in 1997, just a short time before. Legend of Dragoon was just a short time after. Lindley's Dungeon Crawl came out the same year. So all of my... What?
I love that that's become your game.
We can't mention it every episode.
I know, but isn't that weird that that game came out the same year as this game?
Xenogears, another big RPG on that system. And that's a good point. Either from that or the fact that it was M-rated. A lot of people miss this game. And including myself, I never even heard of it until I was putting together that playlist on YouTube. Go watch it. There's going to be a card that I'll forget to put in the video. It's a PlayStation music playlist, and that's how I discovered this game from its soundtrack. But I think a lot of people, like, apparently this went under the radar because of Final Fantasy VII, and I mean, PlayStation 1 was popping off that year and at the end of the 90s.
And I don't think this game ever was released in the EU, so it only had Japan and the States to work with. I know that's not our problem, but
no, that is a huge detail. Yeah.
There's also the sort of appeal thing. I know there's people that love horror, and that was popular, like, at this time especially. There's a reason they made this game. But it's still not going to be as mainstream a game as something that's a little more, I don't know, generically appealing to everybody.
Sure.
Right.
And just, again, looking at the game, it doesn't seem like your typical RPG from Square. So it's an RPG, but there are other aspects of this game, as Dustin alluded to in the intro, that pull from other types of games like survival horror. And like Resident Evil, for example. And in theme, this game goes very dark for Square. And I was trying to think, like, other games that Square released that may kind of fall into that category of just more adult themes. And I don't know. It's always something fantasy or weird, but it's never something real. And this game takes place in New York. So, like, it's very different from their catalog, and being an RPG, this game's obviously very story driven, very like a lot of cutscenes, a lot of reading text and stuff like that.
There's a reason why it's so story driven. I hope I didn't miss you already saying this, but it's a sequel. It's a sequel to.
I didn't say it yet.
It's a sequel
to a novel.
To a novel that is very story driven. Most novels try to be. Thank you.
Graphics of novels.
Yeah, so Kenny started reading. He acknowledged to us before we started recording this podcast. He started reading again recently. Nolan, now you know why.
Did you really?
No, I don't think so.
Oh. I was going to be very impressed.
That would have been amazing if Kenny would have read the... What is it called? Is it called...
Parasite Eve?
It's not called Parasite Eve.
I don't know.
It's called something else.
I should know. But yes, this is a sequel to a book, which is super unique for a video game.
It is. The novel is called Parasite Eve.
Oh,
okay.
Is it really?
Got it.
Okay, so we'll see if this sequel lives up to Kenny's theory on sequels.
That sequels are
the
always
sequels
better.
the better?
I don't
Yeah.
know if that counts. If you
Well,
jump
there's a
genres.
Parasite Eve 2, so which sequel are we counting? We have to decide that too.
That would be the one.
Okay, so plot. Get ready. All right, you play as Aya. I called her Aya. How do y'all feel about that? Okay, I heard
AYA.
and I was like, no.
Oh,
Okay.
I mean,
You play as Aya.
she goes by both, just depending on upstate New York or downstate.
Aya. Does that,
Aya.
was that? Oh, that's a good one. That was a good accent.
It's the karate noise.
You are Aya Brea, a New York City cop, a rookie cop that gets tangled up in this very sci-fi thread that basically mitochondria,
Powerhouse of the cell.
the powerhouse of the cell. I thought that was the nucleus. I learned nothing in school. I learned nothing. Like
It is the mitochondria.
Even like meme science, because that's like the memeiest meme science.
Yeah, but they taught you that. I mean, that was, everyone knows that phrase from school.
Nolan, wasn't your major science related?
Yes, I swear I don't know anything in life. Why do we even go to school? Okay. Mitochondria becomes sentient and is taking this parasite named Eve takes over this person and is the main protagonist and
Antagonist, right?
antagonist and
No
yeah, I
one
haven't beaten the
totally
game.
He did not
misunderstood.
learn
By the
English
way-
either.
He misunderstood how this,
Yeah,
what this game was about.
I didn't learn anything in school. I told you.
He's like, go mitochondria, kill the humans.
I haven't beaten the game and I'm going to, so please, if you're past me, shut up. Just later in
me
the
then,
later in the episode.
probably.
Okay. Mitochondria is taking over people and just burning them up. Combustion, spontaneous fires and killing people, and it's very strange. But it gets like, it's like pseudoscience. There's some truth to it, but then it goes way off the rails, and you have to work with your New York cop friends to evacuate the city and get to the bottom of this monster that is trying to kill people.
And this is a Patreon pool, as already acknowledged. It was submitted by both Michael and Corey. So thank you for your what? Mitochondria? Is that what he was saying?
That's what
That's bad.
That's a really good joke.
Thank you for your submissions this week. Glad that your game could be selected.
Gameplay.
One of the most interesting opening sequences in a video game.
Interesting in what way?
Well, okay, so not only the cinematic that plays before, but after you get to play just a few moments, forward a little bit of dialogue, walk into Carnegie Hall, you are greeted with a beautiful opera. And the performance is taking place on stage. Aya is, or, you know, whatever, is on a blind date with a nerd. And
on Christmas Eve?
On Christmas
Who
Eve,
goes
yeah.
on a blind date on Christmas Eve?
Which this is a Christmas game, so we
Yes.
should include this from now on in our Christmas
Cast for some
game
reason.
things.
Yes.
An opera is taking place. It's beautiful, probably Shakespeare, something like that. And then Aya makes eye contact with the lead actress, and then stuff starts to go down. And what I mean by stuff starts to go down is what Nolan had already mentioned. People start to spontaneously combust into fire. People are falling from the rafters up top down onto the floor. People are just burning and melting into this goo. And all of that's done in an extremely beautiful, visually appealing cinematic for 1998 or 2021.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, I love a good like opera scene where everything is having its moment and
She keeps singing.
Yeah.
I know it's
impressive.
wonderful. It totally Fifth Elements me, and that's one of my like classically favorite fight scenes of all time.
It
is that
Inglorious
opera
Bastards to me. If you've
Yeah?
ever seen that movie in the theater scene. But guys, after that, like you don't know you're a cop, but then after that, Aya's posted up with her pistol, only one left, and is like, stop, like it was such an epic start to a game. It was great.
It goes 0 to 100 real fast though. Like
Yeah.
this thing just explodes.
Watching your first play was interesting, Kenny, because you, like I, didn't know what to expect. And so when
No.
all of that turned in a moment, it went from 0 to 100, and then it goes back down to about 5, because that's the miles per hour that you have to run to the
Okay.
platform to confront Eve. I'm gonna go ahead and bring it up.
Sure.
It is the slowest run animation in gaming history.
No, but it is too slow. Now,
At least there is a run animation. You gotta hold the button until you do that, or if you forget, you can walk.
yeah, and
You
it's
probably did it just
negative
automatically.
speed.
But
Walking
like
in
it
this
literally is so slow. It's
Okay.
obscene.
I'm
Really?
used to this. What, you didn't know you
Yeah,
could do
I
that?
think it just is an autopilot feature for you.
No,
on, like,
I tried
buttons.
various things, and mine was always auto run. So I don't know if it was
Maybe
a
the-
setting in game or
There might be a setting.
I had to hold circle. That's the
Okay.
default controls is walking.
I
and
actually
then hold
like
circle.
that.
Yeah.
I actually like that because that's Final Fantasy. That's Square.
Mhm.
Square did that for a
Yeah,
while,
yeah.
and you could turn it to auto to do it
Ah.
automatically. And I guess that on other Square games, so I would imagine that was done here, and maybe mine was already triggered or something. So I never had to do that, and I even played around with other buttons. But the the run animation is just a little bit faster than the walk animation. It's
Yeah,
still
it's still
dreadfully
slow.
slow.
And okay, so I'm used to this though because Resident Evil, at least the older ones, were slow paced. And I'll also bring this up now. You are looking around an environment and trying to discover plot and look for key items, mostly keys in this game. There's no like puzzle thing like Resident Evil, but you are needing to like interact with the environment a lot to make sure that you're not missing anything. And so I'm okay with it being slow because they wanted you to, well, I don't know why they did it. Maybe it was to make the game feel longer. I suspect
'Cause it's already short.
that might
Which
be
it
some
might
of it.
have needed. Yeah.
But it's okay because you still get to like take in the impressive level design, which I thought was actually not bad.
Yeah, and they are also going for fairly realistic here.
Yeah.
Like you already
Absolutely.
talked
Well,
about it, but
yeah.
it's set in a real place. You're like a real person, like a human person. This isn't fantasy.
It's over
The
6 days.
science is sort of that like pseudoscience, but like justified pseudoscience, so that it has this whole like, whoa, what if that actually happened kind of thing. I know it's way over the top, people melting and mutating and spontaneously combusting, but like they try and immerse you in reality here, and some of that I think is navigating these worlds, kind of realistically, like in walking and running, and it's also how they came up with the main fight mechanic. So this, like
So
an
good.
RPG, drops you into fights, but it does it right there in the world that you're in. It's not cutscene and you have a whole fight stage. You're just fighting where you are. Monsters crop up, but the novel thing is you then have freedom of movement in all of that space. And so it's more action RPG than it is typical like turn-based RPG, because you're dodging skills and you're setting yourself up in position to fight your enemies and using your gun, mostly your gun, which has varying range and power, and making all of these decisions. And so again, it's not realistic, but they went for a somewhat realistic style of fighting that ended up feeling pretty unique to me.
Yep.
Somewhat unique to me.
We had the same realization, Kenny. When I first played, you go into like a tutorial battle with Eve, and like at the opera, and I was standing still because I was just waiting on the AT bar to
yeah.
fall up, to fill up, and I like accidentally hit left on the controller. I was like, oh, and you actually can dodge. So there's the battles. Like, I love turn-based, don't get me wrong, it's not boring, but the battles are not boring at all because you are actually learning enemy patterns and how to dodge them. I love this style of battle, and I think it worked extremely well.
I prefer turn-based. Obviously, that's what I enjoyed most with Final Fantasy. But it's kind of a blend here, right? Because you
Yeah.
have that ATB, so
Yep.
it is turn-based, but while it's in a real-time situations.
Yeah.
So like you said, you're moving around, you can dodge, and then once the ATB bar is filled, you can either use an item, attack with your gun, or we haven't really talked about use PE or parasite energy. And so as you level up,
OP.
you get these new magic abilities, these new parasite abilities that are heal 1, 2, and 3, that can detox you from poison effects, that can barrier that takes a hit,
Energy
or
shot.
even some attacks, energy shot that can do significant damage to your enemies. So and that is also set on some kind of rechargeable bar, which I really liked, because I'm the kind of guy that has 99 potions at the end of a game because I might need them at some point. I don't like to use the stuff that I have, but it was nice because I didn't feel penalized by using my parasite energy because it always came back.
If you're the 99 potion kind of guy, and I know that you are,
99 potions.
how much did your limited inventory space in this game drive you crazy?
Oh,
It's garbage and it's not necessary. It's frustrating in Resident Evil, but it makes sense. There's no reason for it to be here. Absolutely no reason for it to be here. It doesn't add to the immersion.
Realism. Again, they're sort of going for that.
if they would have done Tetris inventory, it would have been more realistic, like Resident Evil. That would have been cool.
But no, Kenny, it's not real when you can
list.
carry 3 rocket launchers, 2 machine guns, and 17 handguns.
I
And
mean,
body
I
armor.
could.
You
You
could,
just give me a big enough backpack. I'm okay.
But she's in a
Regardless,
dress.
I agree it's a really terrible mechanic. I was just spouting the one justification for why I thought they might have done it, but it's a bad choice.
But at least you have control over it some. You are earning these passive points as you level up that you can assign. Everything is like auto-assigned. It's under that kind of level up system, but you do have these points called bonus points that you can assign to increase your AT speed.
Points. Really creative, by the way.
What do you want them to be called? Parasite points? They already said parasite energy.
Yeah, and plus they can't have PP.
You don't have PP. And you can you can increase that item capacity through body armor upgrades and through just increasing it with the BP. So
sure, nobody's gonna waste BP points on that though, because
BP
like
points.
you're not
did.
adding. I mean, you could, because it's that
weapons?
frustrating that you might want to, but like wasting points on utility instead of on actually buffing up your character is just not a choice you should have to make.
that's a good choice.
Wait, so what are you saying, Kenny? You only spent it on your active time, like
did.
quickening that?
That's where I put most of it, yeah.
You can put them in guns too.
So, let me, because we're very technical, I want to step back and say another complaint of mine, or observation, I will say. You might not agree with me, but you guys have thrown away from the first moments of this episode talking about how it is an RPG. I'll let people think that, but I think it is the lightest version of an RPG there absolutely is. I think it's more so action oriented and that more horror thing than RPG at all. Here's why. RPG, I think, is a few things. I'm not going to name them all. I think it's character choice, of which you have none here.
Teenage boy.
Is RPG?
Yeah.
I mean, no, not
Yes,
always.
it is.
I also think that it is character growth, not only in the narrative way, but in being able to do stat allocation or some kind of something. You don't have any control here. Kenny's one thing that he can do is use bonus points to upgrade how fast his ATB.
You can also use tooling to customize your weapon.
I have a counter argument. Yeah, there are
so limited.
No, you're right. You're right.
That's not a negative thing. I'm just saying that it's not very much an RPG.
Well, I think it is more than you're leading on, though, because while the stat assignments are done for you, there are plenty of RPGs that do that, and that would be considered hardcore RPG, but you can choose a weapon style or a specific weapon and invest heavily into it and have a different playthrough potentially that has like a build to it. It's very simple. All you have is a baton, melee weapon, and guns, but there are plenty of guns in the game. Pistols are have different range than assault rifles, and they have different powers. So I don't know. I get what you're saying. It definitely does lean more on like the survival aspect of. Well, no, it doesn't. It's an RPG.
Here's what I think. I think it has RPG elements, but I think that's mainly because Square did this.
Yeah.
As you menu around and as you fight and everything else, even the look of it, it feels like a Square game to me. It really does. It's a little different and it's there, but
No,
it
definitely.
feels like their team worked on it. But I don't think they were trying to build an RPG. I think they were doing this storytelling game that was sort of like sci-fi action realism, and the only way they knew how to do that was by like using some RPG vehicles.
That's a good point.
So
But-
yes,
but
I think you're kind of right, Dustin.
I think they've got two different, diverse RPG ideas that don't correspond or correlate well with each other. They've got those
Oh, I
guns that
heavy
you talked
disagree.
about. You talked about. I am well aware. We'll just carry over from last week's Bubble Bobble debacle
And yeah.
and the week before.
No, the week before, I guess we were in agreement.
Okay, listen. That you've got the gun system that you talked about, and I think that it could have been cool, but it doesn't. You've got the tools, the tune-up system, and all of those where you can upgrade your guns, but it never really made sense because you can either take traits or stats from one weapon, put it on another, and then you lose that weapon, right? Yeah. So you do that relatively early enough, and you're going to build yourself what kind of weapon you want and stick with it the whole way through. So every time I got a new weapon, the option wasn't switching to that weapon. It was, what do I want its stats, or do I want its unique capabilities, or do I even have tools to do that, or am I just going to have another a ninth now weapon in my inventory slot? And then when I did finally start playing with that system, I upped my shots from 2 or 3 to 7, thinking now I'm going to be able to do 7 shots. But then it just brought my damage output down tremendously to where I was only doing like 10 damage per. And so eventually I shifted back to 3 shots, and I was doing so much more damage. So I feel like that system was not done well. And then with the bonus, the stat distribution, all you can do is do the inventory space or your ATB upgrade time, or time. And those two, I feel like do one or the other, but trying to do both, it just wasn't cohesive. I know that was a lot to say, but
no, it's simple, which is a good thing. And the fact that you can even invest in a gun in different ways, whether you're absorbing another one to get stats or skills, or you're just buffing it up, that alone, I have to give it up, because like they could have simply just given you a pistol or a machine gun, and then you just upgrade like you do in Resident Evil, like you just change to the better weapon. But you can have a crit-based pistol in this game and do serious damage if you want, and I love that. I think that's good customization.
I liked having some choices. I agree the system could have been better. I think if I was refining the system, it's not the like menuing RPG customization that I would have done. I would have taken it a step further with the battle system and said that the more I played the like free movement kind of thing, the more sort of gimmicky that felt to me. Yes, you could sort of learn a couple characters and dodge their stuff, but a lot of the times the space was really, really limited, and so that only went so far. And 2, as soon as you start attacking instead of dodging, it's no longer active or skill-based. It's just targeted, and you hit a button. And so I wish they had either gone all the way and let it be like these action encounters where you had to literally shoot your gun, which is harder. And is harder to develop around fairly too, but it's a mesh of a whole bunch of things because they're trying to go for this realism, and in places it feels odd because of that. I'll totally agree.
Y'all are just bad. You can dodge things
further than you.
Yeah, but that not because I'm bad at the game, because I had life things that were very important I had to take care of.
Oh, life things.
Don't spoil anything. I'm on day 4 still out of 6, I think. So
I'm on day
chill.
5.
Okay. I'm going to beat it. I bought a PlayStation cord because my old one was broken, and I want to
Look at you.
I want to keep playing.
Well, after you beat it, you can play the new game plus mode, which we always
might.
like to bring up for reasons. It's called X mode, X Games mode.
I'll be on X Games mode.
On X and it makes the game more difficult.
Okay.
You conclude with the same stats, I think, that you end with, but then it also opens up an entirely new stage. It opens up the Chrysler Building, which I've been to, and it is 77, I think, real floors that you can battle through, and it's somewhat randomized, I think. Yeah, it's really walking up those stairs, but with battles on each floor. So that doesn't sound fun to me, but maybe it is to you.
Aged.
Okay, so we mentioned it earlier in gameplay, but this game has a lot of cutscenes. A lot. I guess it's a normal amount, but it's a story game.
So it's not a normal
So there are
amount.
plenty to watch compared to like any other game. So they're excellent. I mean, they look so good. Even for some of those PlayStation ones, like I can go back and watch. I don't even have an example. All of Final Fantasy is excellent, but there are some of those cinematics that they try to do realistic back then, and it just looks corny. But I thought all of them in this case were just so well done. I loved them.
Yeah, and they cared about the details. We freaked out about this earlier in the week and during the first play and a number of things, reflections in mirrors and off of water. And like driving your car and you're seeing the city go by in your windshield.
Love it.
Like they really went hard in trying to not make it overly realistic. They knew the limitations of the PlayStation. Like this is not, I might as well be looking out my window kind of graphics. That's not what the PlayStation's about. But for what it was, they put detail in and a lot of attention and changed camera angles. It was cinematic. And I agree. I think the look of this was real sharp.
The end game is still sharp, but Kenny noticed it on his first play. It is PlayStation, so you've got some of those polygons. Some of the faces are just blobs. It's not done exceptionally well. But if you played PlayStation games back then, it's not. It doesn't bother you. You know, it's just it's a part of it. But what makes up for it is what you guys are talking about. Those cinematics are absolutely stunning. They are beyond their time. Better than any other cinematics from any PlayStation, the first PlayStation game that I played. It doesn't rival Final Fantasy X, but that is on the PS2 3 years later. This is the best. I bet there's better, but this is the best from memory on the original PlayStation. The cinematics are ridiculous.
That one after day 2 when you're on the horse-drawn carriage and it spins out. It like snaps off of the horse and it's like spinning. Super good. Super good.
Stuff catching on fire and it looking somewhat realistic.
Okay,
like, but that's not an easy thing to do.
Yeah. But here's the thing. The M-rated aspect of this game I also think we should discuss inside of the graphics conversation, because it's not M-rated due to language. In fact, it's got less than Final Fantasy VII, I feel like.
A lot less. It's not due to sexuality.
No. It's gore of all things.
Gore.
Like maybe more than RE at times, because it's like extreme, like a leg popping, like bursting and blood coming out, and you're like, what?
And like that's the element where the horror side of this really comes out, because I felt like just in the normal gameplay there's not much, especially because you've got those random hotspot encounters. It takes away from like in Resident Evil
jump scares,
where something comes through a window, and grabs you.
I was worried this was going to be that game because I don't like that at all.
Can he play that?
I wish it was.
But like I can handle like, oh, that's icky,
right?
And feel uncomfortable and be okay with it.
Like, so this is a rat is transforming, its mitochondria is taking over, and so it's lip pulling back to bear these sharp teeth, and its body splitting, and do you see that urine pulling out from under it as its tail splits into 3? Like disgusting stuff.
Right. Which I'm not. Like, it didn't bother me, but I can see someone watching this being like, okay, Like, M-rated. This is gross. Who cares? Like, you didn't have
Yeah.
to do that.
If that's not your thing, you should know don't get into this game.
Sure.
But for the tone and the type of story they're telling, makes the most sense as sort of the vehicle to do that with. So I don't mind it.
Well, also the realism of
In this
everything.
case.
Like, New York is a real location. You're going to real locations. I loved that. I guess it was just refreshing to have something based in our world versus, like, you know, a fictional place, which it always is, which is cool. It's fine. But, like, the world building side of it, everything happening, you're like, oh, that's a little bit darker because it's New York, and it's like
Yeah.
things that we're familiar with.
Do you know why it's New York? Many reasons.
Why?
But because they were actually going to do New York for Final Fantasy VII. Scrapped that, and so they did it with this game.
No, real.
Yeah.
Have
Isn't
they
that
ever
weird?
done a real place?
In Final Fantasy? No.
They should. That'd be
No.
crazy.
Eh.
Why?
I mean, Final Fantasy
No,
15
do it
is
here.
Oh,
don't
it's
do it
very
there.
Final Fantasy 15 is there's like some kind of Tokyo-esque places
Heavily
and there's
based,
you know,
or, yeah.
shout-outs, but it's its own thing for sure.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
So this game starts. You immediately go catch this fire opera, literally.
It was lit.
Is that all you have to say?
No, and the music fits it.
Oh my gosh.
It's like
Stop.
it's ethereal and like weird and kind of spooky but beautiful all at the same time. And then they've got this bar set of we're about to do atmosphere with music. Do you think they pulled it off?
Listen to me. Listen to me very carefully. When you go from that song you're talking about, which was excellent, and then you go into your first battle, and the battle theme plays, I was like, all right, I am in based on the soundtrack already. Because you know me, that's my thing. I was like, wow, this is excellent. Then you go to the police headquarters for the first time, the precinct.
And that's the track.
That is the track. That's the safe room, room
For Resident Evil.
for Resident Evil theme. It's just, oh my gosh, yes.
And that's what's on our playlist, right? On our PlayStation
yeah, that's the
playlist.
one, or
Yeah.
one of the versions of it, because that theme reoccurs, which is another
Sure.
good thing they pull off. Is like an overture, like it just shows up in battle themes later. It is one of my favorite soundtracks on this console. It's
Goodness.
up
Okay,
there.
so I don't know about
And
that.
there's some really good ones on the PlayStation.
There are some really good ones, but I felt that it was pretty limited. Like that there weren't enough, and I know that's intentional. Like there's a lot of silence or a lot of just sewer noises
Yeah.
when you're there, or a lot of
footsteps.
But like when you're in the office, when you're at the police station,
Yeah.
you can be there for a while, checking out the different rooms, walking around. It's only that track, you
Yeah.
know,
But it's a bop though. Like it's long.
Oh, it's so good.
It's so
good. So you know that this is the person who did Kingdom Hearts, who did Super Mario RPG,
No, I
Xenoblade
didn't.
Chronicles, and Final Fantasy 15. She's amazing.
Oh,
Yeah.
dang. I mean,
This
Yeah,
is
it's-
Nolan. You're better at the pronunciation, but this is Yoko Shimomura, I believe.
okay. That was
So,
good.
She's incredible at what
Man.
she does.
It's
Firmly in Nolan's camp here. This was so good. And not just like the musical tracks,
I'm
but
in
the kind
Nolan's
of
camp.
ambient stuff behind too that's still musical, that's just sort of atmosphere. And that can be hard to do, but
Perfect.
done really well. Nolan, you did laugh at the footsteps though. I will say, as good as the music was, some of the sound effects were a little distracting or like heavy handed and like clomping around with those weird like horse feet all the time. I don't know. They
But
could have done a
again,
little more there.
attention to detail, because when
They're
what's your cop's friend's name?
Wait, your cop's friend
Your
or your cop?
your cop friend.
Daniel.
Daniel, is
Yeah.
it? Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
When Daniel shoots the window out of the gun store, which was funny to go steal guns.
While she's standing there.
Yeah, like it looks like he shot
right
her.
past her head. I was like, oh, that's not okay.
When you're in the shop and you're walking around, you actually close to the door, you step on the glass and it crunches and it sounds very realistic. Like they did a great job with the sound.
There's
I love
attention to detail for sure.
Yeah.
It's PlayStation, and in this one in particular, there are a lot of load screens and they are relatively slow. We're playing on a lot more modern hardware now, and so the load screens aren't as noticeable. But pretty much this is one of those where it's not a cohesive fluid level. When you are going through a door into a new room, or even turning a corner, or just going so far that they want to give you a new view, it goes black for a few seconds here today, but for a little bit longer in the past, and then until it gives you that new environment.
I'm just used to Resident Evil. When you do that, it goes to a shot of the door, and you walk up to it, cluck,
Yeah.
cluck, and then it loads. So
Right.
I don't know what you're talking about, just because I'm used to that. But yeah,
It is there for sure.
sure, yeah. I just didn't notice it that bad.
We've already mentioned it does have 2 video game sequels, Parasite Eve 2 in 1999, and then The Third Birthday in 2010, which went with a different naming convention on that one.
Yeah, bit.
That one's back to the maternity simulator.
Man,
The Third Birthday.
this one needs a remake. I feel that would be interesting to do it on PlayStation 5 and just like introduce the game to people that missed it. I think it'd be good.
Well, it would have to rival Resident Evil Village because it is owning the
Easy.
PlayStation 5 right now.
Easy.
This game is only $41 used and
Ouch.
$250 brand new. I know
think-
that some were looking at it this week in their local stores, and it was closer to $60 used, which is a lot.
Man, that
Yeah,
PlayStation games I feel like start getting pricey.
Yeah.
Final thoughts.
At the end of each and every one of our episodes, we determine whether or not the game gets our vote for New Game Plus status, which is our general thumbs up or thumbs down. The game does require 2/3 of the vote to swing one way or the other. I'll begin. What do you think that means?
I don't care.
I got the furthest this week and had a fun experience. It was interesting. I love Square and I love this era of gaming, as I've already acknowledged. But I honestly just felt like this was like an unfinished project, or it was an experimental. It was an experimental project for Square, and then so I think for some people it will really, really work, and then I think for a large amount of people it won't, either because thematically or just because it's so different than what RPGs, JRPGs, even action games were doing during this time. And so I think while it was experimental and it should be applauded for that, I think that it lacked in some of the implementation. And I've already said some of those things throughout the episode. I could have finished the game this week. Like I said, I'm almost through with day 5. So really I just had to go back, do the museum, fight some things. And I didn't want to spoil.
Please
and
don't.
then go to the final chapter, which is I think just a series of battles at the end. But I just didn't have any desire to anymore. And so again, I think that if you're a Resident Evil fanboy, then this is, and you haven't played this game, you're gonna really enjoy it. But I think for the masses and for myself, on an enjoyment level, I'm gonna say no New Game Plus on this.
I'll go and say that one thing we didn't really talk about was the storytelling, and being a story-driven game, that's very important that it doesn't suck. And despite the pseudoscience nature of some of the the mitochondria evolving and stuff like that, it doesn't get too outlandish that I'm like, okay, this is stupid. In fact, I think the story is well told. I love the characters. Daniel and his son Ben, and the whole dynamic there where Ben gets in trouble a couple times was like very emotional. And I feel like
Maeda? You hate on Maeda? You don't like the little nerdy scientist guy with you?
Oh, I like Maeda. I like most of the characters, and it just worked for me. And besides that, the method of storytelling, what like Kenny mentioned, was like in the police car with everything like whirling past you. It just felt very immersive for a game like this. And I love the simplicity of the gameplay where you pick a gun, you shoot things, you dodge things. I love the activeness of the battle, the activeness. This game's excellent. And all of that to a beautiful soundtrack. I feel like you need to play this game because it's an excellent PlayStation title. And it's a shame we missed out on it just because of other really good titles. But man, this game did something for me, and I'm finishing it. Like, I'm gonna finish it, and I can see it being like in my top for that console. It's so good.
Ooh. I would love to watch you finish it, so definitely stream that when you do. Kenny, you don't have to make any comments about, oh, I hate doing this, because we now 281 episodes in. It's bound to happen from time to time.
And he had to do it
What do you
last
think?
week.
I love that I have the power.
Wait, you commented on it.
He said
You just had to do one thing, and it was not that.
No, I do what I want.
Yes.
So often, unfortunately, I find myself at this point in the game,
He's doing
in the episode saying
Doing it
the game is good, but not good enough for my NGP. We've had that even recently. Today, flip that on its head. The game is fine.
Good.
It has lots of flaws, but I'm giving it NGP status anyhow. It is certainly imperfect. Some of the stuff Dustin pointed out is 100% valid. But here's why I'm giving it NGP. It does what it's supposed to do well. This game is almost more visual storytelling than it is strictly an RPG.
Yes.
But that's okay.
Sure.
And yes, the story is over the top, but even not liking that genre, I didn't mind it. They told it well, and it was sort of engaging. It's a bit static. It's way probably more linear than a lot of your RPG folks want. People aren't going to want to go back and play it a time. But if someone's never played it, they just missed it altogether. I think most people that went back and played it would be glad that they did. And so, not an over-the-top, like, out-of-the-park NGP, but I'm saying, yeah, you should probably give it a shot.
Don't roll
NGP.
your eyes, Nolan.
No,
It
I'm
just got
rolling my
NGP
eyes 'cause-
Yeah,
status.
I agreed with
He
you.
never
Come
gives
on.
solid ones.
Well,
He's
of
never like, yeah,
course.
this is NGP. He's
I
like, I don't want to
certainly
do this,
sometimes.
As I've said off and on air, we're 281 in. If you expect otherwise, that's on you at this point. If
this
you
game's
expect
awesome.
Kenny, well, says Nolan. And Kenny agreed with Nolan, even though Nolan's salty about it, and that
Yeah,
means
I'm gonna
What?
start waiting. I'm gonna start waiting and seeing which one of you I just am enjoying being around more and agreeing with them at the end
No,
of the
yeah?
you
episode.
better not.
Yeah.
Parasite Eve is New Game Plus certified.
Good.
But what did you think? We had 899 votes on YouTube this past week.
You were gonna say commentaries.
Comment.
Like, we went viral, boys.
And I'm about to read them all.
57% said yes, it's worth playing today. 3% said no, go play something else. And 40% have never played it before.
That sounds about right.
It does sound about right. It is a gap there. I wonder, I would imagine that this is always going to trend towards yes, because the people that they want their opinion, or right, because strong opinion is going to be the affirmative, I would think, most of the time. If it's a no, or if you don't know the game, you'll probably just skip past it.
Right.
But still, like I said, 57% yes, 40% never played. Only 3% agreed with me and said no, go play something else. But what did you think? We had many people write in. Clint said the story had me sucked in, and the combat system is really great. Not being able to find key items was a major stumbling block in my limited experience this week. My other complaint is that the dialogue scenes are all incredibly lacking, and the fact that the only sound in those segments is the occasional footstep only serves to accentuate the fact that there's no voicing or music thrown in. Feels like a massively missed opportunity to me. I'm definitely looking forward to playing more of it, which is more than I could say of my playthrough of Final Fantasy VII.
Ooh. Oh, that's offensive to you.
I mean, well,
wow.
that's an opinion, Clint. It's definitely
It's
an
an
opinion.
I don't know about that one.
At least it's relatively apples to apples. Like, these are games that were same era, same console.
Same producer and developer.
Right.
Yeah. Dad TV wrote in, formerly known as 16-Bit Dad, who last talked to us when we played his game Kudelka.
Rebranded?
Ooh.
He is rebranded, I guess. Dad TV. I like it. Parasite Eve has been in my top 10. By the way, did you understand? Last when we played Kudelka, which is a game
Yeah.
very similar to
Yeah.
this.
Yeah. It is.
Parasite Eve has been in my top 10 games for years.
Wow.
It's definitely rough around the edges by today's standards, with run speeds and the graphics showing their age. But that doesn't detract from the story and the general atmosphere of the game for me. I go back and revisit the game, PS1 sequel, novel, and movie on a yearly basis, although I don't do the Secret Tower and ending each time.
That's a lot.
Okay, so you're probably right about the Secret Tower. It's probably pretty stale.
Yeah.
I also said this game is sort of linear and like predictable and people wouldn't want to revisit it. I guess some people care enough.
No, I get that. I want to revisit Dark Souls all the time. In fact, I played it the other day. I mean, that game is not linear by the same standard, but like I'd do it with Resident Evil too.
This is a one-time playthrough for me. Learn the story and then let it sit.
Garlisle said there's a couple minor hiccups, like how the slender interaction hitboxes for some environmental items are easily missed with no indication they were anything special to begin with, or some enemy attacks later on defeating the point of being able to move freely when they can just auto-hit you anyway. Despite that, the combination of early 3D grotesque horror, camp writing, and pseudoscience plots is exactly this era of gaming, and enjoyable for it, but it's actually fun to play too, which I wasn't expecting. It's way more active than I expected of a Square PS1 title, so I enjoyed it quite a bit and kind of get why people always told me this is one I should go back and play. If it sounds like your jam, you'll probably enjoy it.
I feel like at the time it was just so different for Square, and even by today's standards, like didn't Final Fantasy 15 have some sort of similar kind of battle style? Obviously, it's newer and more updated, but like that active / turn-based kind of style.
I'd say there's similarities.
sort of.
It's just
Final
unique.
Fantasy 12 did as well. Yeah, it's an evolution, of course.
Yeah.
But there are definitely some similarities there. One of the things that Garlisle said, and y'all had mentioned too, I didn't. This is one of the reasons why I didn't give it my vote. I wasn't enthralled by the story. I thought it like, and probably the way that it was being told. The dialogue was somewhat was always lacking, and the characters were kind of like all this one-dimensional. Like I don't know.
It's a little cheesy. It's
Campy. It is camp.
Yeah, it is.
Which I guess fits that vibe for sure. I like the writing and the storytelling in Resident Evil better.
Yeah, me too.
I'll allow it.
And then Michael, one of the patrons that submitted
Michael
this game,
Condry,
said, "Parasite." That's a good joke.
Thanks.
Parasite
I'll laugh at
Eve
it
is
every
as
time.
much a part of my youth as Final Fantasy VII. I remember coming off the high of 7 and seeing advertisements for Parasite Eve in magazines. The game combines two of my favorite genres of the time and does it well. Is it perfect? No. Is it an amazing gaming experience? Yes. The unique battle system, the well-crafted atmospheres, the perfect length come together to create an unforgettable experience. If I had one complaint, it would be that Aya runs too slowly, and I wish they leaned into the bullet hell light elements they sprinkled in. But this game is a definite NGP, and I hope it gets the remake/remaster it deserves.
See, I'm telling you, it would be awesome. Be awesome.
Thank you for sending in your thoughts on the Retro Game of the Week. You can do that each and every week by sending in your thoughts to ngppodcast@gmail.com or by hopping in our Discord. There's a commentary section there. We'd love to include your commentary as a part of our show next week. But for now, we're going to set aside Parasite Eve, and we're going to randomly select our next Retro Game of the Week from our ever-expanding Retro Master List, which Antonin just made a new command in our Discord that shows how many games we currently
Saw
have,
that.
and it's around 1,826,
That's
something
more
like
than
that.
I thought. It's crazy.
It's a lot of games. From that list, randomizing now. We're going to the Super Nintendo. The year is 1994. It's a role-playing video game. It's a sequel, and this is crazy, it was developed and published by Capcom.
Oh. I thought you were going to say Square, and I was going to be like, do another one.
Wait,
Re-randomized.
wait, no, Capcom. Oh, that was Resident Evil. I know we had just talked about
Yeah,
it.
it's
So I
already,
was
yeah,
like,
yeah.
for some reason, I was thinking that it was, which is weird that Resident
Yeah.
Evil is Capcom, by
Yeah,
the way.
it's
'Cause
relevant.
Isn't
That
Mega
is
Man
kinda
Capcom?
weird.
Capcom is, awesome. Street Fighter?
Capcom's interesting. All right, so RPG, developed and published by Capcom, first released in 1994, for the Super Nintendo. It's the sequel, second entry in the series. The game is called Breath of Fire 2.
Okay, listen to me. This is on the Nintendo Switch Online catalog. As is the first one, I think. I've always been interested, but I've never dabbled.
Well, this is the second one.
Right. So that sucks because I want to know the story of the first. I'm pretty sure it's a continuation.
Well, just go play both.
This is one of those series that has a lot, though, right? So maybe it's not a direct continuation. Maybe it's like Final Fantasy. I don't know, because I think there's like 5 or 6 of these games.
I don't know. But I always have heard the graphics are really good, and I don't know. That's a
I thought
big
you
pick.
loved this series, Nolan. Am I getting it confused with? No, I'm getting this confused with Fire Emblem.
Yeah, you are.
The word fire is in both of them, but this is
Interesting.
not that.
Find a copy of Breath of Fire 2. This is not that. And play it along with us this week.
As you heard earlier, we have a commentary channel in Discord. You can join that by going to ngppodcast.com and clicking Join Us in Discord. Discord has a new logo, by the way. I think it's kind of ugly. It's like purple, but whatever.
I mean, it's very similar to the original. You might not even notice it's any different.
Oh, I definitely do. But
the color scheme.
We
Anyway.
still want you to be there, so go do what I just said.
Nate and Logan have joined us as new patrons this week. So we want to say thanks, guys, because that's a really cool thing to do. Welcome to the fam, if you will. I don't think I can say that. We also want to say thanks to our ever-growing list of producer-level supporters, Marley, Austin, Ben, Bethany Fox, Carrie, Dan the Man Francesca, Corey Maxima, Nahuel, Secret Duck of Evermore, Shauna, Thomas, Unbedavable, Wardonis, William, and Zion.
It's a long list.
And our amazing directors who go above and beyond in supporting us in really cool ways, Antonin, Garlisle, and Brojim. We are grateful for each and every one of you.
You can find us on our social media. That's Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube. All of those links are in the show notes. Listen directly on any podcast provider of your choice. Make sure you subscribe so that you are the first to get new NGP episodes. And while you're at it, please leave a kind rating and review. This episode was edited and produced by our good friend Tom Tate. Join us next week as we play Breath of Fire 2. Until then, I'm still mitochondriastin.
I'm not gonna do it. I'm not even gonna try.
I'm mitochondria.
Mitochondria. And this has been New Game Plus.